Hello, everybody, and welcome to the most exciting stocks for 2021. This is Stockerfinance. I'm your host, David Scheuer, twitter.com/Stockerfinance. If you want to follow me there for more information as well as updates on the markets and just my general commentary, I'm going to have a Robinhood referral link below. If you want to support the channel, if you sign up, you get a Robinhood account, obviously, and you also get one free stock. We both do, which is pretty awesome. Now, let's go ahead and move on here. I've never really done a video overview like this. We're going to go ahead and start with Doordash. This is a really interesting company. It had a huge IPO this year as well as Airbnb. I'll talk about that company in a little bit. They're growing rapidly. They own about 50% of the market share in terms of food delivery service. However, they're not sustainable. They don't have sustained profitability right now. They had a very overvalued IPO. Some are calling it the most ridiculous of all time. Some said just the most ridiculous of 2020. I think it was pretty ridiculous as well. I agree with that statement. And it's actually down about a little over 27% since its IPO price. They're attempting to monopolize the entire food market. We're really seeing them go up against big competitors, though. I mean, it includes Grubhub, Uber Eats, a lot of stuff going on there. And in my opinion, Doordash has really set up itself in a great position, focusing on the suburban markets rather than the dense urban centers. So that means that a lot more people who live in those urban centers and the suburban markets, they have families, they need to order more food, etc. They live farther away from restaurants. To me, that strategy makes a lot of sense, and that's a big part of why they've been able to take so much market share. Really exciting company. You know, the fundamentals don't really add up to the valuation necessarily, and I think this correction in price is definitely well-deserved after its insane IPO. But let's move on to Tesla. Of course, this company has to be on here. Always been an exciting company to watch every single year for the past, decade. Easily one of the most exciting companies of the entire decade, and probably going into this new decade as well. The Cybertruck coming out maybe 2021, we'll start to see some deliveries. I don't know about that. It's really pushing it. I should say end of 2022 is probably much more realistic for the Cybertruck there. We have completion, or at least working on the Gigafactory Berlin, which is doing great progress right now. Gigafactory Austin as well. Gigafactory Shanghai finishing up. A lot of interesting things going on in China. I really want to see the deliveries over there and how they are comparing and how they're helping the rest of the company and what percentage of overall deliveries they are for Tesla, because China is such a massive market. I mean, when you just look at the population of China compared to the USA or Europe, it dwarfs it. In fact, China's population alone is bigger than the combined population of all of Europe and North America, which is pretty incredible. So I really want to see if maybe their business starts focusing in terms of their delivery percentages of more deliveries are being delivered in, or more deliveries are happening in China, and it'll actually outweigh the number of deliveries happening in the US. I don't know if it'll ever get to that point. Let me know your opinion below. I think that could be really interesting, simply based off the just massive population that China has and their obsession with US luxury goods. That they're really obsessed with Gucci, Supreme, as well as Tesla, which is considered a luxury vehicle company. They're experiencing rapid growth right now. It's always an interesting company to watch, as I said. Increased deliveries in 2021. It's really going to be a great year for Tesla, I think. Some skeptics might disagree. Some are saying, is their valuation justified? It's been going through the roof right now. This valuation does not add up to their fundamentals. And on the other side, people are saying, well, this is just, it's pricing in the intrinsic value of Tesla, saying that, one day it will be justified, this valuation, because they'll have, full self-driving in all their vehicles with robo-taxis. They're going to have the Tesla Semi. So a lot of people on the bullish side are really pricing all of that in. Now, I personally am very biased. I'm a Tesla shareholder, and I am on the bullish side for this company. Really love the leadership. Elon Musk is just awesome and just such a wild guy. What he's doing with SpaceX, the Boring Company, Tesla, OpenAI, etc. Let's move on here to NextEra Energy. NEE is its ticker symbol, and it's a really interesting company. I've actually done some really in-depth analyses of this company, so I'm not going to go too far in during this quick summary. But they have a big battery expansion plan for North America to increase the battery storage in North America, or at least in the United States, by over 50%, and then potentially doubling it later on if it goes well. They're a growing company. They recently shut down their last coal-powered plant in Florida, which, from an environmentalist perspective, that's really good news. Largest energy utility company. They have a dividend that's continuing to grow, although the yield is shrinking, and that's just due to the rapidly increasing stock price over the past few months. Really interesting company, especially with the Florida Power and Light Company. They kind of almost have a little monopoly going on with Florida and the utilities over there, these energy utilities. And as the population of Florida increases, more retirees move out there, I think this company will succeed and will be a nice growth stock going into 2021 as well as into the future. Airbnb, I know there's not much on here. That's just because I want to briefly touch on it. I'm going to make a video that's much more in-depth on this company. Super interesting company, very similar to Doordash. We saw a just incredible IPO, and unlike Doordash though, Airbnb actually recovered from the correction. So it corrected itself significantly, then its stock recovered because a lot of people are thinking, it looks like coronavirus is getting better. It looks like the vaccine's coming out. That means more people are going to want to travel and more people are going to be using Airbnb. On top of that, besides its massive valuation and also not being able to sustain a profit, I think one interesting thing about Airbnb going into 2021 that I'm really excited to see is how it compares and how it's doing in terms of its competitors. So what I mean by that is all these hotels, unlike Airbnb, were really just, they didn't have the capital to sustain themselves and they all shut down. So tons of hotels closing, being turned into apartments. Hotels are just not making it anymore. And that's going to benefit Airbnb significantly since it's going to have even more or even less competition. On top of that, there really isn't a competitor to Airbnb on the market right now. At least I haven't heard of a really successful one. So I think Airbnb has a lot going for itself, just whether they can actually pull out a profit and be a profitable company at the end of the day. Because like a lot of these tech companies, that's a huge issue we're dealing with. Just a very interesting company I want to watch. I'm not a shareholder of Airbnb, but definitely going to be an interesting company in 2021. AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, super interesting company. One of my favorite companies of all time. They have a patent that they recently revealed. It's going to be enabled by Xilinx. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. They have the PS5, a chip in there, as well as in the Xbox Series X. I want to see how those sales, since I know the PS5 has really had some struggles selling in terms of them not having enough inventory. The Xbox Series X has also kind of had an interesting launch. They have a lot of new chips coming out, the Xilinx buyout going underway, etc. A lot of new news for Advanced Micro Devices in 2021. Super excited about this company. Next one is Disney, DIS, its ticker symbol. Rapid subscriber growth. No one thought Disney Plus subscribers would grow this quickly, and it's really becoming a major part of the company. So much so that they consider Disney a tech company, no longer, I guess you could say, an experience company or an entertainment company. They just call it a tech company, and that's what it's being classified as now because of Disney Plus's rapid growth and massive effect on Disney's business as a whole. They cut their dividend, which they used to reinvest into advertising and purchasing original content or creating original content for Disney Plus. So a lot of investment into it, and it's really paid off. They increased the price of Disney Plus for subscribers by just a tiny amount, but they're also varying the prices based on country. So for poorer countries such as India, they only charge Disney Plus might only cost a couple bucks, but Disney's still super popular over there. Not saying it's not any less popular, and that's why they're charging less. They're charging less simply so that customers can't afford Disney Plus over there. In the U.S., which is a much more the average income here is significantly higher than that in India. Well, here they're charging much more for Disney Plus. That strategy is really good, pretty genius on Disney's part, in my opinion, to just really make their subscribers surge. On top of that, they're still releasing Disney Plus and rolling it out in tons of different places. The Mandalorian, one of the original TV shows, was honestly one of my favorite shows of all time. It's super awesome. I'm a big Star Wars fan. That really revitalized the entire Star Wars franchise, in my opinion. After those, after the sequels, the last three, those are pretty tough to watch. Some of you might disagree with me, but as a Star Wars fan, those definitely hurt a little bit. And now seeing The Mandalorian come out, seeing with all this new Star Wars content, as well as tons of original content coming out on Disney Plus, they're really going to have their subscribers stay. I was worried for a while that tons of people were going to subscribe, watch The Mandalorian or a couple shows, get bored, and then unsubscribe from Disney Plus. But that's not the case. We're seeing people stick with Disney Plus, and they're doing a great job with rolling out content at just the right time. So original content is really going to be key, and I'm really interested to see how that plays over, whether they can perform well. Netflix has done a great job with original content. Can Disney do the same? So far, they've been doing great. I think they got it. They got the budget for it. I think they got the money for it. In my opinion, based on how The Mandalorian went, I suspect the original content coming out in the future to be great as well. So 2021, super interesting time for Disney. I'm also really interested in whether the parks will be fully reopening, how that's going to affect Disney's bottom line, etc. Now let's move on to Spotify Technologies. SPOT is the ticker symbol for this company. Really interesting company as well. I know I've said that about basically every single one of these companies I'm looking at, and that's because that's just a fact. They're all really interesting, and if you're going to ignore the stock, if you're going to pretend you're not an investor and you're just a business analyst or something just studying companies, all of these companies would be super interesting cases to analyze. So podcasting to Spotify's probably the prime suspect that we're going to be analyzing for and watching for Spotify. It's really successful in the music industry. Now it's getting into the podcasting industry. It spent spent millions of dollars, in fact, billions of dollars on this. And I think that it's going to pay off eventually. I just don't know when. I think they have some problems they need to work out, though. Subscriber growth is still really steady for Spotify. And I know I accidentally put the Disney Plus, ESPN Plus subscribers on here. Sorry about that. Totally messed that one up. Kind of a messy presentation here. But they've had really steady growth in subscribers. Just ignore this graph right here. That doesn't mean anything for Spotify. That's Disney's. And they have a lot of innovations that I want them to make. For example, I really want them to add a comment section. That seems such like a minute thing to add to Spotify. But think about, why do people use YouTube? Why do people watch content on YouTube? Or why do people listen to podcasts on YouTube? It's because there's a sense of community. Not just the fact that video, I mean, Spotify has video as well. People go to YouTube because they want to see the comment section. They want to engage. When I listen to a really interesting podcast, the first thing I want to do is go talk about it with someone. And if I can just do that right there in the comment section, it's going to create a much more, a significantly better atmosphere for the app. It's going to draw people to it. And they're really competing, with Apple Podcasts right now. And that would give them the step up that they need to take more market share away from Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube, as well as little other competitors there are. More content for podcasts. Will they be purchasing more? I want to see if that's going to happen. Right now, they got the Michelle Obama podcast, Joe Rogan. They have I think they have the King, and I think they have like the Royal Family podcast or something like that. I know they got a bunch. They purchased Gimlet Media as well, which is kind of like the Hollywood producer of podcasts. The CEO, this is a very paraphrased quote here, but he said this will be Spotify's year. It's going to be a really interesting year for this company. He actually said that about the stock specifically. So from an investor standpoint, that's good news. Really interesting to see how Spotify does, especially whether it can sustain a profit or whether it will ever whether that will ever happen being a profitable company. It's going to be really interesting. They're definitely going to have to cut some of their costs. Here's some others I'm interested in 2021. Just really quickly, DraftKings, really interesting company, especially with Penn Gaming as well. I want to see what happens with legalizing online sports betting. Now, for a while, you never really thought that this might happen in all 50 states, but there is a chance that most states will, especially big states like New York, are going to legalize online sports betting and online gambling as a whole because they need the tax revenue. So many states are in deficits and suffering from the pandemic and just how much their economy got shut down during that time and how much tax revenue they lost. If they can legalize online sports betting, I know there's a really good chance that marijuana is going to get legalized as well in a lot of different states because they need the extra tax revenue. So that'll be really interesting to see how that affects DraftKings. Obviously, if it gets legalized, it's going to be huge for the stock and the company as a whole. Penn Gaming has a Barstool stake, about a 30% stake in Barstool, which is kind of I don't really know how to describe it, kind of a crazy media company around sports, partying, college life as well, just a bunch of stuff. But college has been very different this year. You don't have the same action. People aren't going out to parties, and I'm wondering if that's affected Barstool's company and it was profitability. I've noticed the engagement on a lot of the Barstool Instagram accounts is significantly down. People just don't care as much because they're at home or they're just not doing anything that they weren't used to. They're not going out to sports games, etc. So really interesting if that will affect Penn Gaming at all, negatively at least, or if Barstool is still thriving. I just don't know, and I definitely want to look a little deeper into that company and watch it going into 2021. So Sony, another company I'm really interested in, really specifically for the PS5. It's had really steady growth this year, been an awesome growth stock to own. I personally am a shareholder. It's just been a really interesting company. It's a non-American company, which is interesting. And speaking of non-American companies, if we move over to Alibaba, a Chinese company, really in a bit of a pickle. First off, everyone thought the CEO, Jack Ma, and founder of Alibaba, everyone thought that he was dead or that the Chinese government had murdered him. It was really interesting. We weren't really sure what was going on. It's crazy to even talk about that. Here in the U.S., something like that would really rarely, or if ever, happen. But in China, that's something that is a worry. And the fact that if we found out he was alive, the stock shot up 5% because he was alive. Apparently, he's still laying low, though, to quote the media, or him at least, or at least someone who reported from him. But there was a Chinese government intervention regarding Alibaba, USA relations. There's talks of banning Alibaba stock completely, getting it delisted off American exchanges, which is why the stock crashed today. I believe the company is still undervalued. It's so profitable. It's higher margins than Amazon. It's basically the Amazon of China. But again, if you look at the population of China, the growing economy there, the population of China alone is more than the size of Europe and North America combined. So that alone, with a growing economy, is very good for Alibaba. They do a lot more than just an e-commerce company as well. They do tons of different stuff. So a really interesting company. I think it is I think it has significant upside, but with all this political tension going on, with the Chinese government intervening, etc., you really have no idea what's going to happen with this company. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I know this video is a little messy, but I'm just getting back into the ring of things, moved into my new house here. Twitter.com/Stockerfinance for more information. Check these videos out. If you'd like to support the channel, make sure to check out my other analysis videos, which are significantly better and more in-depth than this one. The Robinhood link will be below if you want to support the channel and get a free stock yourself. Anyways, this is Stockerfinance, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.